1212 CTM. What's going on, everyone, on this Friday? Hope you are well and doing great. Markets not loving Trump's pick for Fed chair. We're looking here at Kevin Warsh, the new nominee, needs to be confirmed by the Senate. And markets here are saying, wait a second. This is the guy. We see the balance sheet turning up right over here. We see the balance sheet expansion beginning. This is the outspoken critic about running the balance sheet up, about QE. He was serving on the board, the Federal Reserve Board, back in 2006 through 11, during the great financial crisis, during the birth of QE. He's always been a vocal critic about it, how it is a reverse Robin Hood, going ahead and stealing from the poor and giving to the rich, much as we talk about the injustice of the Federal Reserve. I have spoken with you about the injustice of the Federal Reserve starting back 5 years ago when we first got together and talking about how it seems that their whole purpose is to redistribute wealth from the American people to, I guess you could say, the elite of the elite or what have you. They're shareholders as well, no doubt about it. The move on gold and silver is absolutely crazy. You were looking back, by the way, gold off 12%. I remember during the great financial crisis, or you could just go back to the most recent crisis over here of 2020, just to give you a little bit of perspective. And gold at that particular point was off 15%, 14%. Gold in how many days is that though? It's not too off. In about 10 days. In one day, gold putting in a similar move. What about over here? As we talked about how gold peaks close to or shortly after the birth, after that massive balance sheet expansion, excuse me, y'all. And this is an outrageous move. It's a big move, but so is the move up. And I would say that we are looking just at a little bit of mean reversion. And then you could see, and wait, we have a new Fed chair. They're calling it quote unquote hawkish. The guy's not hawkish or anything like that, and is talking about and absolutely wants to lower rates, aligning with Trump's agenda. He's just repeatedly argued that QE has inflated asset prices. You remember we've always said QE is uber asset inflationary, that it increased inequality, absolutely, and it mainly benefit the financial markets rather than the real economy. He's not wrong about any of that. Now, I wonder, because if you remember when Treasury Secretary Bessent, before he took the helm at the Treasury, he was like Janet Yellen. Actually, it was Stanley Druckenmiller. The greatest financial blunder ever made in the markets was Janet Yellen not rolling over U.S. debt at the zero bound. And Bessent was a critic of that. He said rolling over this short-term paper is absolutely ridiculous. And then he took the helm, and then not only is he doing the same thing, he's accelerating the pace because he has no choice. So I wonder if we run into a similar situation. Obviously, Warsh, I don't know the pronunciation here yet. Warsh is interested in cutting rates. His framework is definitely different from the markets are used to since the birth of QE. But we're going to find out, is he going to be forced to return to the printer? For the first signal will be, and I assume that he's going to try to, at the first meeting that he's chair, we're going to see if they could lower rates. That's going to be his objective. But Powell right now is running the printer at a pace of $47 billion a month, expected through April, and then that's expected to be reduced. Powell's like, don't worry, we're going to run that down to $40 billion. So we have to watch the balance sheet. Is this a Fed chair is a major dynamic that could have ramifications. That he used to work at Stanley's firm, Stanley Druckenmiller's firm, Warsh, and we saw that Stanley's worried about we're about to hit a hard landing. Is that maybe designed and on purpose, or does he know something that we really weren't expecting? I don't know. All these things are obviously possible. is the debasement trade over now that the new Fed chair has some, let's say, arguments against QE, the dynamics, and what it does? Well, is the debasement trade over? Are we going to see central banks beginning to buy U.S. treasuries instead of gold at this particular point? Are we seeing an appropriate market reaction after the euphoria that's hit, specifically here on silver, specifically on gold? Bitcoin continues lagging, waiting for that slingshot. By the way, I saw a video of Saylor, and I wish I brought it up with you. Maybe on Monday I'll bring it up. And it's the perfect candidate for how do you know this is real? But we'll talk about that later, or on Monday, hopefully. Let's continue breaking down what's taking. This is a major new piece of information that is hitting the markets, and the markets right now are a little unsure how to react. And the initial reaction is obviously people selling silver, selling gold, because they believe that potentially the debasement trade's over. However, there's a reason that we've been in an era of fiscal dominance. You know, Lynn Alden's "nothing stops this train." Regardless if the new Fed chair is a believer in QE or not, I am under the impression that because of the debt-based system, that there will be no choice at some point in time to have to return to outright QE in order simply to keep the music playing. Now, obviously, he's not going to be someone who's ready. I don't think any Fed chair at any point in time was in a rush to run the printer. And we always thought they're going to try to push the cycle out as long as possible. It comes down to when there's no choice. That's outright QE. I really want to watch what happens with this reserve, the reserve balance sheet reserve management. And is that going to continue under the new Fed chair, or do they wind that down? That would be a huge dynamic, a huge twist if they were to do that. Now, don't forget, we have an alignment here of a strong alignment. Who else used to work for Stanley's, what is it? I can't pronounce the name of his family office. Duquesne Management. Besant and Druckenmiller used to work together. Now Warsh and Druckenmiller used to work together. And they're all aligned here with the president. And we are seeing more of the Fed coming under the umbrella of the Treasury, the wishes of the president. And they want to grow their way out of this situation they're in. So they're going to be engineering what they can to do that. And here we are today. It's a big correction. What we are seeing is, I love this right here though. Everyone's a believer of QE when the boat hits the iceberg. I can't pronounce that, y'all. Thank you for typing it out here. I have to hear it to remember. Y'all know that I wasn't like second languages. I mean, I speak Spanish, but it's broken Spanish, I guess you could say. And if I'm in an Uber for an hour, I could speak with the driver the whole time. But I had to learn English by memorization. I couldn't sound out words, so I have to hear it, and then I got it. Some people will still get on me, Jordan. It's NVIDIA. It's not NVIDIA. Oh, the question is, do they have any other tools to not debase? They have no other solutions. Absolutely. I think this is verbal. And I think it's, again, this also potentially here is a case of what happened with Besant, a vocal, adamant critic against using and rolling over short-term paper in order to fund the balance sheet, the government's balance sheet, the government's debt. And he takes office and he does the same thing, and it continues to accelerate. Is that the situation Warsh is going to be in when he comes to realize, wait a second. Now, these people are obviously highly knowledgeable and intelligent, and we'll find out. and they have this guy used to work 20 years ago, 15 years ago at the Fed. You know, I would say he knows a thing or two. Well, that could defer to Powell then. And he was a critic of Powell running this thing hot, the inflation, in real time, a vocal critic, but so were we. So who knows what the Fed chair knows? I don't know. But you're seeing here gold and silver into a massive, massive correction. I know here during the live stream, someone, coming back a couple of days ago, a few days ago, was saying silver's topping here. I don't know how to trade that. And when I say that, I'll come back like this. Maybe I could find it, put up my lines with y'all. Got these lines over here. So hold on one second. I don't know how you trade this. I had over here, okay, this thing is looking frothy. If we get a breakdown over here, that sets up a sell impulse. And there was a pretty strong extension, but I was like, were you taking profit? If I was trading that, I would have let it run further. And then it was nullified over here. Yeah, you back above the line, you have to exit. So I'm exiting at a loss. I don't know how to pick that trade up again. So I have no idea personally. Oh, breaking some or test about, yeah, I would say running through that upper support that we had just put in, and now at this particular time into this area, I think becomes interesting. This is the breakout that we're watching above over here, right? So breaking below that, then what is happening? The whole sub $50 silver crew are going to be taking victory laps, and I'll love it. I've seen some Bitcoiners taking victory laps on silver traders today. I think that's an extreme poor taste. Extreme poor taste. I'm not liking that at all. But whatever is whatever. Market participants will do as they wish. 100% the physical. Someone had a question about rare earth materials and how do I think this affects rare earth materials are simply needed component in all technology, ranging from cell phones to missiles, weapons of war. I don't think this affects rare earth minerals whatsoever. And if someone is invested in the space, I don't think that this has any type of correlation whatsoever. And y'all let me know how they're acting today if you are. Yeah, yeah. I think there are some Bitcoin influencers who have pivoted that people will probably think, but I don't know if this is over. This looks like a well deserved mean reversion to me. And if you look at something like this, and you look at the arc that we're in, right? That's a bad line. Let me just draw a better line. Like, this is like the mean, and we escaped it, and yeah, we're coming back towards it, and it could come back below. But if you ask me, soon enough, we're probably back. Is simply overshot, correction, and then back up. That's what I believe. That's what I think on silver. If I try to find, look how far we came. We came well above the line. We've overcorrected. I'm bullish if we stay above this line. If we stay below it, then I imagine that there could be a lot of pain out there, especially for anyone trading futures. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the new Trump's pick for the new Federal chair, who is not a believer in running the balance sheet up and Fed balance sheet intervention. We'll find out whether or not that's what happens, and whether or not he runs into a Besson situation where he has no control. You're seeing the dollar bidding up on this news over here of someone who's not going to go ahead and just be printing dollars, or at least that's what the expectations are. And we will find out again how long that holds. I don't know. What I do know is our positioning. I want to get into a little discretionary action on Bitcoin, but before we do, let's just take a look at what's going on here. As far as stocks, we trade 6 different instruments. 2 of them have the Bitcoin play, whether it's MicroStrategy or the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Every single one, all this is so unusual, out of the market as we start 2026, except NVIDIA. NVIDIA here taking 50% of the overall stock allocation and is up in a position right now, currently 2.9%. We're looking here at Bitcoin and crypto, and we continue to hold an Ethereum short position that is 15% into profit, and now taking a Cardano short position here, currently 2.5% into profit. Staying on the right side, knowing when to be in the market, when out, and what side is priceless. We are long NVIDIA and short Ethereum and Cardano over here. By the way, for those who haven't checked on V2 here right now is handling this current market situation extremely well, holding some nice positions. Bitcoin holding a short position, 8.8. Ethereum holding a position 12.9 and 12.6 on Cardano. If you remember, Bitcoin bull runs exiting the market 14,000, has been out of the market since. Someone put it in the comments, I didn't see it until yesterday, and it was from last week or so, and they were like, oh, this thing just gets in and out at the same price. It doesn't, guys, how many things could outperform buy and hold Bitcoin from inception? And Bitcoin bull runs obliterating it. Same thing though with obviously V4. V4, even if you are able to go ahead and look at the very bottom of the bull market where it begins, we called it. Not many people can. I didn't call it top. I don't personally think we top, but I do think that this new dynamic that's being digested also needs to be digested by us. This is a major new piece of information with a Fed chair that, doesn't want to allow monetary policy align with the bull of all bulls, right? Now we have other things happening, including the crypto market structure bill, the Clarity Act. It looks like it could be on Trump's desk pretty soon. We have to see what the reaction would be, if there's any initial reaction to that. There are some people who believe there's a lot of money on the sidelines waiting to come in once they get that clarity. And then you look here at the disconnect between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ, and we're probably going to get some closure. I don't know if it's going to be a snap up to the upside or a snap down to the downside, but we're going to find out, I suppose, pretty soon enough. Watching over here as the NASDAQ under pressure again today, and obviously Bitcoin really, really getting ripped up once again. Again, knowing how to position. So there was questions. Here we go. Duquesne. Thank you, Gibson. Duquesne. Yeah. And now all of a sudden I have I feel like I've heard. Thank you for saying that. And I might need to have that reminded a few times to get that to sink in over here. Trump wants a weak dollar. This is initial reaction that you're seeing today, right? This is like, we have to, it's not what they say, it's what they do. And again, Besant was an incredible vocal critic about the way Janet Yellen was handling the issuing of the debt, and he's doing the exact same thing at accelerated pace. Waller could say what he says and believe what he believes, but it's a big difference when you're at the helm, and we're going to find out what he wants to do. I don't think we're looking at anything more than it, and it could be. That's why I'm saying this is something we have to consider. We have to really digest this. Today, I think you're seeing initial reactions, right? Again, when you look at, is the debasement trade over? No, there's no question about it. Yeah, they might be able to run this thing hot for a little while, and it might look good for a minute, but that's not going to last, and they are going to be forced back to the printer. The debasement trade is not over or anything close to that. And, well, Trump has never said to Powell, you should be printing money. Trump has always said to, and he's not hawkish. It's just how he's being called hawkish because he doesn't want to expand the Fed's balance sheet and use the Fed's balance sheet as a policy tool. But don't forget, when people are cutting Fed funds, that's considered dovish. That's dovish, right? And he's saying he wants to cut rates. So this whole hawkish thing is a misnomer, right? And, that it has everything to do with his belief of QE and using the Fed's balance sheet as a policy tool. Now, whether or not the Fed is the one that's going to be ultimately printing money, or it's going to be the Treasury indirectly printing money, the printer's going to be running. There's no question about that. It's what happens in between. So he plans on lowering rates. That's dovish. That's exactly what Trump has wanted. And one of the main reasons Trump wants that is because of the amount of debt and the interest that we're paying on it right now. And listen, I don't care. There's nothing that it's not since Trump's elected. Under Biden, I was talking about the mistakes and the many mistakes that Powell has made. And remember the hubris when he went on 60 Minutes? And he's just like, yeah, they're like, did you print money? He's like, well, we didn't actually print it. It was all digital. But yeah, we flooded the system. We flooded the system with dollars, and we'll do it again. And I don't honestly think that the guy knew what he was doing. And I think that he's going to go down as one of the worst Fed chairs that we ever had. Now, the market likely is not going to crash and he'll get blamed for it, but he really dropped the ball in so many ways. But anyway, then there are people who believe that Besson and Powell meet every week. There are people who believe that what Powell has done has been brilliant in so much as he's been able to take the euro-dollar system off of the LIBOR rate being fixed in London and able to go ahead and introduce SOFR rates now controlled domestically by the U.S., and that he's trying this whole time to break free of the, let's say, the grips that the city of London has over the Federal Reserve and the United States, and that he's closely aligned, working alongside Besson and Trump, and maybe that's the case. And again, like I said earlier on, like these guys have a lot more information. They are obviously brilliant. They're intelligent people, and I'm just a commentator from the side. So that's the truth. I don't know what Powell's truly up against, and there we are. But I sure know how to position in markets. Listen, there's a couple of questions over here about the trade management of V4. And Buy Side Boost, obviously, here, sitting pretty, taking some shots early on in January out of the market, and now sitting pretty on the sideline since. And this is why people love CTM. Trading both sides, Bitcoin able to take that nice 8.5% trade. Ethereum holding this bang over here, and Cardano back into the market. Some people are wondering about the new money management on V4. V4 is built upon CTM 2.0, which is built upon CTM V2. And it adds money management. And some people are curious of what that is. So if you remember, or if you've been following, the previous Ethereum trade went ahead and it started initiating that trailing stop loss right over here, right? And you could see it moved to trailing stop loss. All the trade management is happening internally For example, on Ethereum, when you have an exit signal, the stop is moved to 0.6%. It will be reflected here, that's the long side, in the table when that happens, and you'll see the new stop loss over here. On the short side, on the exit signal, you initiate a 1.3% trailing stop loss. Again, right now we have the initial stop loss in. It hasn't initiated an exit signal, and it hasn't moved to the trailing stop loss yet. But this open trade here on Ethereum short, when it does, you will then see the trailing stop loss reflected here at 1.3%, and it will be variable. And then you'll also see the stop loss here. It will then be trailing, and you'll see it reflected like that. On Bitcoin, it's similar situation. Short side, I kept saying 1.3, 1.1 on Ethereum. On the short side, 1.3 on Bitcoin. And also the same on an exit signal, it will then be switch from the initial stop loss to 0.6, and that will be reflected on the table. Cardano, when it's in profit, 8%, it moves the stop loss. And then you can see the long side also has that same 0.6, but a trailing stop loss. And on the short side, you also see as it's in profit 6.55%, you will see the stop loss also moved. Solana has, which is great, right, for Solana, for Cardano. And it's why Cardano here was able to magnificently be able to navigate all that Trump hoopla back in 2024, 2025. Let me just put that in so you could see. I think it was in 2025 when Trump did all that stuff over here with the here it is. It's right here. Solana, Cardano up 100% and then down 100%. And you could see being able to navigate with a really acceptable drawdown over here and outperforming. It's a significant difference, and it's because of the money management you're able to see that Cardano is able, as well as the rest, to navigate so well. Solana on the long side, it moves to 0.5 trailing stop loss on the exit signal at well. Is bull run canceled? There are a lot of people who will still use Bitcoin bull runs to manage their spot Bitcoin ETF to hedge against it, right? And V4, we looked at and we went through all the performance of CTM 2.0, of V2 versions 107, 108, and buy side only 101. We looked at V4 and Bitcoin bull runs, and they're all fantastic templates. They're all true. It's hard to make that decision. V4 on Bitcoin, and I do believe the current volatility that we're experiencing on Bitcoin as we entered into the early majority is going to continue. I think that the days of the euphoric Bitcoin retail-driven runs are behind it, and the price action that you've seen over the last few years is going to on a volatility perspective, is closely going to resemble what we see in the future. And V4 outperforms in that new regime. In the past as well, right? And you could see with the looser money management and filters, you could see CTM 2.0 and V2 early on in Bitcoin having outsized performance years. I don't think we see that again. And I think that V4, which also performed so well back then, is going to continue to outperform in this new regime. No, we trade on crypto. We trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and Solana. And on stocks, we don't trade different sectors. Again, it would be nice, for example, to know when you were going to see an expectation of miners. This was modeled here for GDX. I'm sorry, not GDX. I'll pull it up once for GDXU. And by the way, what a call. I told you when Doug Casey was telling people to buy silver miners over here, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. this thing is so far extended, and we're exiting. We exited after that first initial 10% drawdown. You have to be careful when people are telling you, and you could say this 30% off since he's telling people to buy it. And I'm like, no, this guy's been positioned in that. What are they looking for exit liquidity? I don't know. I hope not. I hope it was just a bad call. But this is modeled here for GD, the 3 times micro gold. And if you know when we're gonna go on a huge run, then it's not I don't spend maybe Peter Schiff would know better than me. I don't know when miners are set up, man. But everyone was telling you to go into the miners at the exact wrong time. So it's possible to model for different areas and sectors, but we're highly focused and concentrated. And you can come back over here, and we only trade select tech, and it happens to be NVIDIA, Tesla, and then we have TQQQ, which is 3 times levered triple Q, and then we also have FNGU, which is FANG plus triple levered. And Bulls seems like a good candidate for us to add into. That's also tech related. Would it be nice to have something that was focused on, like for example, this year it seems like, and I have to point out to those that are interested, I mean, what's going on here? If we get this breakout on oil, I want to be all over it. And energy, right? We've looked at the build out that's taken place on compute, and we know that energy is becoming a factor. And I'm wondering, some of these names though, like they've run so hard. Look at Bloom, I don't like chasing things like that. So I feel like I'm left behind. But if the opportunity does present itself, I looked at my 2026, and these were like tech, that growth tech that was built around the whole AI build out narrative, right? Not narrative, what's happening. Let me come over here from a 1 month chart now from when they started. So that right here at the bottom, now back to break even. Is this an opportunity? I don't know if we're setting up for a bigger correction. So this one is down, SoFi, and that's obviously a little bit different. Zeta is down. A lot of these things get now down. And I'm wondering, this is good. Is this giving an opportunity perhaps to be able to build positions in some of these things over here? Overall, the portfolio up. It's only 1 month though. This is the Q1. Back to break even. So I'm looking at different areas, and we don't have. That's right. We don't have templates for particular sectors. We could model them, but it's very important to be, much like Stanley, highly concentrated. That's what we do. Yeah, it's amazing. All right, y'all. This has gone a lot longer than I anticipated. Let me go back to Bitcoin, only because I want to get out there and make some turns today. We're looking at Bitcoin here. It didn't take out the low, but it did go lower than I anticipated and expected as far as the structure. And I'm just going to go ahead and go off the low now. And just so you could see what price was paying attention to, I'd like to learn. And we just have where that support was found over there. And that's just where we are. If we lose that right there, then yeah, I think that there's a good chance. This is the March 2023 regional banking crisis. If we come into there, then there's a good chance if we take out this low that we could go down, and that is coming in around 75,000 Bitcoin. That brings in a potential, look at the 2025 April low. And all of that obviously is in play right now. Right now, though, everyone, I'm going to say have a great weekend. I'll see you all on Monday. Right now, I'm going to go get it. Have a beautiful day, everyone. God bless you.